I want to talk briefly about the Methodist General Conference that took place today, the day before, and the day before that. Um, it was intended, when they planned it, I guess about a year ago, that this conference would have a vote in which the general body of the church, or the delegates from the different churches, would come together and vote that individual pastors at Methodist churches across the world could do gay marriages, and that open homosexuals could be appointed anywhere to the priesthood, could be appointed, confirmed, and rise through any leadership positions in the church, and all that kind of stuff. So a year ago in Chicago, they had a meeting in which they offered three plans to be voted on. One was extremely liberal and pro-homosexual, one was moderate, and then one said, let's just keep everything like we decided it to be in 1972. Just stick with the old stuff and not update anything. Reaffirm our position. The body of the bishops in 2018 in Chicago recommended that the most liberal and pro-homosexual plan be adopted by the delegates in the 2019 meeting, which just occurred. In a great upset, this did not occur. The moderate plan was also not selected. The traditional plan that reaffirmed the 1972 rules is what was selected by the body of the delegates who came forward. So I don't know what you call it, the globalist United Nations agenda, the Rockefeller Group, the World Council of Churches, all these kind of people who, the ecumenist movement, all those kind of folks who are always extremely liberal and pro-homosexual and pro-queer and pro-trans and all this kind of stuff, they were defeated sort of by their own weapons kind of turned against them, because it turns out that the United Methodist Church has, in the very recent past, incorporated huge amounts of Africans. Something like 25% of the people at this Methodist conference were delegates from African churches and African countries, and they're not too pro-homosexual. So they're overwhelmingly conservative and traditional. So if we had just been working with the European and American delegates, they would have approved the most pro-homosexual, pro-queer, pro-trans agenda, and the agenda would have moved forward a little bit. But because these churches are no longer national but international, and this is just, I think this is another part of the program. You want to put all these people from all these different parts of the world together and get them to be doing the same thing. They failed in another part of their agenda, which was to promote this kind of material. And so this was supposed to prevent a split in the United Methodist Church body, because the pro-homosexual and the anti-homosexual people don't want to be in the same church. So the solution to this was, well, we'll just force the traditionalists to accept the pro-homosexual positions. So it's really not, it wasn't going to prevent anything ever, and unless the traditional people just go along with stuff that they're forced to go along with, because that's kind of their psychological tendency. But since the traditionalists won and the pro-homosexual people lost, then you're probably going to see the militant LGBTQ types break off and form a new organization. But it's really it's left these people with and by these people I'm referring to whoever's controlling the upper echelons of the United Methodist Church. Don't forget that people like Elizabeth Warren and George Bush and Hillary Clinton and all that type of person, this is their church. And then, of course, there's millions and millions of people who have, nothing to say about what goes on in the church. They just go to it and believe in its doctrines or inherited it from their family. So anyhow, I wanted to talk about this briefly in case you weren't aware of it. Maybe you can look into it and find it pretty interesting. This is one of those things that if you take the perspective that the conspiracy theory is unbeatable, that it always wins, that everything is planned out from the beginning, and that the bad guys never fail and they always win. I don't know how you interpret something like this. To me, it looks like they miscalculated and they thought that they would win this vote. They failed, and now they look stupid. Thank you for your time.